Hello and welcome back to World of Warcraft and another Gold Challenge Mode dungeon run. My name's Lumin and right now it's time for the Everbloom. Our party composition is still exactly the same. It's the same in all the videos. Myself, a Protection Paladin. Zoe is our Discipline Priest. Luthira is our Enhancement Shaman. Moving is our Marksmanship Hunter. And Mika is our Beast Mastery Hunter. Now Everbloom was, I'd say, for me at least, by far the most difficult. And I spoke about this a little bit in the primer. I said that it was difficult because firstly you had to do big-ish, pretty challenging pulls, and secondly, and I think mainly, you had to do funny little tricks and stuff that sometimes didn't go according to plan. This first pull here is actually ridiculously difficult, but at this point we already had our capacitor totem stuff kind of worked out. Like, we were actually using Capacitor Totem on the regular, and Bind-In Shot, you can see at the back there, 2 of them caught in a Bind-In Shot. We were doing a decent job at AoE stunning and disabling these dudes. Obviously, like I mentioned in the primer, my Holy Wrath stuns all the elementals here, so they do much less damage. But regardless, they still get these casts off, and they're pretty high priority, I'll just say that. The Naturalists and the Tenders, they cast both Barrage of Leaves and Enraged Growth. You gotta interrupt them. The Enraged Growth I'd say is slightly less important. I don't know, even the Enraged mobs didn't do that much damage to me. Barrage of Leaves, if you get 2 of them on one of your DPS at a time, it can kill them pretty quickly. I don't think a healer is gonna be able to heal through that all too easily. But for the most part, you just gotta interrupt, stun, and if you do that, you should be able to get through it easily enough. The only other mob I didn't talk about is the Dread Petal, those little plants. You can just ignore them. You cleave them down, you AoE them down or whatever. Don't focus them at all. Now, this is the first little shortcut that we take in. In doing this, we basically skip in a couple of, I would say, troublesome mobs, slightly larger mobs that would waste your time, that aren't worth the enemy count at all. And that little jump up there is, I don't know, it's unpredictable. I know there are some people that can just do it every single time, no problem, but I'm not one of those people. Okay, so we had a Hunter disengage up there, and then he gives us a lift up with a 2-seater mount. Now, I'm going to talk more about that kind of stuff in just a bit after this boss, but first, let's talk about these packs here. You want to pull as many as you can handle, I guess, as many as you can interrupt safely. For these pulls, it's just Naturalists and Menders. The Naturalists cast Barrage of Leaves, the Menders cast Revitalizing Waters or something, so they basically heal, and you gotta interrupt it all. You know, healing is counterproductive to killing, so you're gonna want to stop that, you're gonna want to shut it down, and Barrage of Leaves, again, if you get a little unlucky with the targeting on that, then it can just one-shot a party member. We had that a couple of times. We wiped a couple of times because it just one-shots our healer. So with this final pull, which ends up just being 3 mobs, I think I could probably have handled that with the rest of them, or at least before we had killed the rest of them, because we didn't stop and wait for mana or anything like that. We didn't stop and wait to heal up or anything like that. I pulled these immediately after we killed the others. I think I could have saved a couple of seconds here by just chain pulling a little quicker, but once you kill these, it's again just the Naturalists and the Menders, and these guys you can stun and interrupt and daze and do whatever you want to. Like, they are free for all when it comes to CC, but once you kill them, you just run all the way to the back corner over here, and the boss should wake up. You can see that last little orb of water runs into him. This guy, he is incredibly easy if you have decent DPS, because again, you just skip all the mechanics. And when you got mobile DPS like Hunters, it's even easier to skip all the mechanics. So as a tank, you pull him all the way back into this corner here, and that's again just because when he summons these elementals or something, then they have a longer way to travel or whatever. I really don't know the mechanics, because we use heroism here, we DPS him down so quickly that he just doesn't have a chance. You can see on his energy bar when he's going to go into his brittle bark phase, so we popped heroism just a couple of seconds before that so we could get the best out of it and actually use the entirety of heroism on this boss. And when he goes into brittle bark, for those that don't know the boss itself, he just takes extra damage. So you want to keep your big damage abilities, all your cooldowns and stuff like that for this phase. And for when you're using heroism, you just pop them all at the same time and nuke them down as fast as you can. And again, you do end up skipping most, if not all, of the mechanics if you do that. I realized that my view wasn't great here. Like, I sort of zoomed in a little far so you couldn't see what was going on, but I think that most of the mechanics on that boss, if you pop heroism, use your potions and stuff, are negligible. Now here's the next spot where you're going to be jumping up. This one I could do. I mean, I failed it on the first attempt there, but I got it easily on the second one. To be able to do that, you need a mammoth mount, so you need a big fat mount, and if you have that and you can get up here, it just allows you to skip a whole lot of trash that you would once again otherwise not need, because we only need 10 more enemies plus the bosses, so like kill in all the other elementals and all the dread petals and stuff along the way on the normal route that you would take, that's a waste. So these casters, they're kind of tough. And they're kind of annoying. Whenever you kill one of them, they spawn a little spore image that does pretty much the same kind of spells and stuff that the original does. It's just basically that you got to kill them twice, and that's really not very fun. And with them, I think your main focus is probably going to be the Pyromancer, because they cast this Dragon's Breath thing that disorientates you constantly. But you got to, once again, just be kind of quick with your pulls here, and it's a little difficult. A couple of times, we just missed mobs entirely. We missed them because they're wandering off somewhere at the back. You can see there's one standing all the way at the back there. I think he was blinding shotted or something. I don't know what, one of the hunters basically pulled it and brought it over here, which was good. We wanted that. These pulls will always, I think for most parties at least, be kind of risky because there's a lot of damage coming out and there's a lot of stuff you got to interrupt. If you don't have good, quick and constant AoE interrupts or stuns or whatever, then you're going to have a lot of damage go out to your party members. It's going to be really difficult to heal and tank and everything. Again, however, the abilities that you mainly want to watch out for are Frozen Snap from the Ice Callers and Dragon's Breath from the Pyromancers. They're annoying. They're incredibly, incredibly annoying. You can see Frozen Snap appearing on the ground there, freezing anyone that stands in it. We got caught in it a couple of times. By we, I mean our party members. And it doesn't really make that big a difference, but you lose DPS. You sometimes get caught in harmful stuff on the ground. It's obviously better if you avoid it. So those 3 spore images over there, they're not going to count towards our enemies killed. You can see we need 2 more, and we're going to pick up the 2 that we need when we head to the final boss. But the order that we do these bosses in is a little weird. I'll admit that. I don't know if this is the optimal order, but we clear out around the mage boss over there, which is Archmage Sol. Then we jump down here, and we take out the Ancient Protectors first. I think at the end of the day, we decided to do it this way because this was the more challenging or more dangerous boss for us, specifically for our group and our composition specifically. So we wanted to do this one first, and if we sort of messed up or made a mistake here, then it was less to redo. But on this boss, you need to interrupt and nuke down Life Warden Gola immediately, like as quick as possible, but you're not going to want to interrupt everything. Okay, you only want to interrupt Rapid Tides and Revitalizing Waters on him, and that's it. Like the other stuff, you don't want to interrupt at all. On Earthshaper Telu, I think that you want to interrupt Briarskin or Barkskin or whatever, and you want to let Bramble Patch go off, because you can again use the funny little reflecting shenanigans on that. So you can actually stand in it with Grounding Totem down to reflect the damage back to the bosses, and I think that Hunters can do some stuff as well, and Death Knights with Anti-Magic Shell. So you want those to go down, you can easily avoid them or whatever, and it keeps the boss busy by casting it. As for Dulhu, the big guy, he does Noxious Eruption, he charges, he does this funny little slash attack. He's not so dangerous if you can just stay away from him. I think he's mostly dangerous towards melee classes. So if you are close and you get caught in the Noxious Eruption, you could get knocked back into one of the Bramble Patches or whatever, and that would kind of suck. You know, but overall, he is not really a big problem, and you want to mainly focus on the 2 casters. We did okay with them. Like, we didn't nuke them down that quickly, and I think I specifically could have probably done a little bit better with the interrupts and stuff, but I was just trying to stay alive. I was just trying to stay out of the way of everything. It was challenging, okay? It gets a little crazy in this fight, especially if they do get some of the casts and stuff off. So now it's just Dulhu left. It's super simple. I was making a mistake here by not pulling him back into the trinket, but fortunately you can see it expired just a moment after that. He just takes a while to kill. And again, you run out of the explosion, run back in as soon as it's done. Simple enough. I don't think it does that much damage, to be honest. Like, it just does a little bit and it knocks you back. The knockback is the scariest part. When he does that slash thing, you can just run away because he stands still and he just telegraphs exactly where he's going to be slashing towards. But when it's just him left, I think you kind of know that you've got it. The 2 casters that accompany him, they are the problems. Like, they are the dangerous ones there. And I think that in most cases, if you let them get too many casts off, you will wipe there. So as we head towards Zeritak's burrow here, we skip the big spider because I think he's just got too high a health pool. It's not worth it killing him above the others that we instead going to kill close to the end. And when you come in here, you want to click on these eggs as soon as possible and start the encounter, because this encounter is just a lot of waiting around. We actually had an idea that we didn't see through to fruition of sending one of the hunters out to pull 1 or 2 of those casters that we needed, you know, to get our mob count completely done before the final 2 bosses. But if I'm not mistaken, we decided against it because we had 8 minutes left and we didn't want to risk one of our DPS dying and not being present for this boss because that would obviously slow us down quite a bit. But this boss has a couple of phases where the spiders drop down and you've got to kill them until the final phase where Seritak himself or herself comes down to fight you. The toxic spiderlings, you can pull them under Zeritak's bite. You can see that bite over there and it does damage to them. You can do that. I think it also does damage to the pale ones or whatever, these venom-crazed pale ones, if they run through it. But we killed everything so fast that it didn't really matter. We didn't really need to do that. But it is something you can keep in mind if you have a composition that has slightly lower DPS. Again, you just gotta wait for these spiders. They're not super dangerous or anything. They do have a fixate. You can see one of them is fixated on Mikai there. And if they do get to someone, they just start attacking them normally. Like, they don't have some special one-shot mechanic or anything. Now, I think that might have been the last wave of spiders. If it wasn't the last one, there's one more. The venom-crazed pale ones, they, if you let them run into this venom fog, then they actually sort of enrage and become a whole lot bigger. Okay, so this is the final wave of spiderlings. There you go. Fine. I didn't even realize at first that there are 3 different spiders that spawn. Each of them obviously has something different they do, but they die so quickly that, again, it doesn't really matter. So you can see phase 2 started. I decided to pull Zeritak closer to the entrance here because there's just far less going on. There's more room for us to maneuver around a little bit if we have to, and I think the main thing is probably just that it's closer to the exit. With this boss, it's sort of just a waiting game. It just takes long. Everything just takes so long. She does a couple of things. You can see she did Gaseous Volley there, which does literally nothing. She does Toxic Bolts, which also don't do that much damage. It does a lot if it's in combination with something else. And you're going to want to, for the most part, just interrupt the Venomous Sting. Or you can let it sting you and you can just remove the poison. I actually cleansed a lot of poison in these dungeons myself. The one mechanic that you don't really see here is that she sometimes feeds. There you go, consume. She sometimes feeds on the pale ones, and if she gets that off, if she gets the entire cast off, then she heals up a little bit, but it's pretty easy to just nuke the pale one that she's consuming down before anything bad happens. So once you're done with her, run past the spider again, be careful. Sometimes you get trapped in there if the spider is right at the entrance. It happens. It happened to us once or twice, and then you just gotta wait. Now time for Archmage Sol. She is actually quite tough. She was one of the more difficult bosses because there are lots of mechanics and stuff that you gotta watch out for, and I hate mechanics. She starts the fight off with this bark skin on her, and while it's up, you can't interrupt anything she's casting, but once it's done, then she has this spell that she casts called Parasitic Growth that will shift her through her phases. Her first phase is fire, her second one is frost, and I think the third one is arcane. I'm not entirely sure. We never really get that far. I think in most cases, you'll do the fire phase twice, and you do that by not interrupting her parasitic growth. You can see that it's casting right now. In doing all of this, you can choose how long you want to stay in each phase. The fire phase gets a bit dangerous. In the fire phase, she throws these fire blooms down on the ground. You can see a little triangle of them behind her. There's 3 of them at the moment, and they all explode into these fire novas that you gotta jump over, and they do a lot of damage. The fire nova does a lot of damage. I think we went 1 fire phase too far in this. We might have wanted to go frost before, but when you do interrupt the parasitic growth, she gets the bark skin back. You can see there. So she gets bark skin now, she starts casting frostbolt instead, and instead of the fire blooms, she puts blizzards on the floor. And then also, when she does shift phases, she spawns 1 spore image that'll help her against you. It doesn't do very much, you can actually ignore it, but I suppose if you have too many of them, so if you shift through the phases too fast, it would become a little problematic. There you go though. That's the boss, done and done. Be very careful for the Fire Nova once you've killed the boss. You can see we were kind of running in it there and taking extra damage we really didn't need to take. Now, these are the final 2 mobs we need. It's just 1 Pyromancer and 1 Arcanomancer. Not too tough, and once you kill the 2 of them, once the 2 spore images spawn, you just run. You just hoof it to the final boss because you don't need to kill those final spore images, and you can just save a bit of time like that because your enemy count will be at 30, this gate will be open, you run through the portal here, and you're done. You teleport to a different area, the mobs won't bother you when you're trying to kill the boss. I basically just grabbed aggro on the 2 of them so they'd shoot their spells at me, and then I ran through the portal with the rest of our party, and then once you go through the portal, the final boss encounter just starts. Like, you don't have a choice, it starts. the boss starts attacking the NPCs here, and you generally want to fight the boss with the NPCs alive because they help a little bit. They put some stuff on the ground that you can kite the boss into, which I was really bad at doing. But on this boss, we had lots of trouble. So he does a few things. There's a colossal blow, you saw it there. He entangles party members sometimes. He entangles your party members plus the NPCs. Sometimes you can just leave the NPCs in them, but I'm never really sure if it's an NPC or a party member, so I generally try and get them out. Then next up, he summons a bunch of ads, varied ads. I think he first summons the little guys, lots of little guys, then he summons the Gnarled Ancient, then he summons 2 vicious Mandragosas or something, I'm not entirely sure. But while Genesis is on, you have to run over these petals as quick as you can, because once it's done, once he's done channeling it, then from each of those little petals, a Feral Lasher spawns. Now, on TeamSpeak, Luthira had the bright idea here of letting the Feral Lashers spawn so that he could do more damage with his Fire Nova. Now, he did do more damage, but we didn't realize that they would do as much damage as they did. And I guess that they were so hard to keep aggro on. You can see all the way at the back left there, there's one of them attacking one of our hunters. It's kind of my bad for not getting aggro on that one, but things started going really pear-shaped here. Like, everything that could possibly go wrong was going wrong, and there were way too many ads. And look at the health of our party members. Luthira is dead twice already. We rezzed him once. He's dead again. Everyone is just slowly but surely dying. I've used all my cooldowns, potions, everything, and then he goes and does Genesis again. Fortunately, I had my speed boost saved up for this, so I ran over all the little petals on my side while taking lots and lots of damage, probably more than I really should have. There were so many mechanics and stuff happening here that I just wasn't paying attention to because, well, we were just dying constantly, that I am honestly surprised we survived. As a tank, you're mainly trying to manage the ads and keep them off your party members. It's not too difficult and it shouldn't be as hard as I'm making it look here, and you should also try and keep the boss in the fire. I kinda didn't really do that very well, and right at the very end here I got Guardian of Ancient Kings up again, which I think saved us. I was down at like 5% health. If I didn't pop that there, I would definitely have died. That was pretty lucky. I did a reasonably good job at using all my cooldowns, but I did a terrible job at trying to keep aggro off all our party members. You can see at the back there, there's a Gnarled Ancient attacking one of the hunters. Things were just getting too crazy, okay? I don't apologize for that. I don't feel bad about that because, well, I mean, like I said in the previous runs, gold is gold. I suppose, if anything, we can just blame Luthira for that, for making that silly suggestion of not running over the petals. And the reason we were all okay with that suggestion and none of us really disagreed was because we didn't really practice this boss. I think we killed it once before this. We got silver on it or something, and that was the only one time that we killed the boss, so we didn't really know what was going on. Regardless, there you go, gold on Everbloom, a very scrappy gold. You can check back here soon for more. Give this one a like, share it, and do all that good stuff. Most importantly though, happy Warlords challenge modes. Happy that.